I don't believe it. They made a soundtrack worse than NHL 19 and 20. How'd they mess that up? Okay. This is my short review on the NHL 21 soundtrack. It was revealed about an hour ago. My short review of NHL 21 soundtrack. It's the most mediocre piece of shit I have ever listened to. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, NHL 21 soundtrack. It's not bad, but it's not good either. When NHL 19 soundtrack and NHL 20 soundtrack, there were about 10 to 15 songs that were actually listenable, and about 10 songs I actually liked. NHL 20's and 19 songs have both 21 songs each, and I liked half of them. NHL 21 soundtrack has 23 songs in them. I only like 5. There's only 5 songs that I find actually listenable. The rest, they weren't bad. They were just unbelievably mediocre. Like, even NHL 17 had more better songs. Like, what I mean by more better songs is that NHL 17 soundtrack, it's one of the lower tier NHL soundtracks because it has a lot of bad songs. But for most of the time I could still listen to NHL 17's soundtrack because there were a lot of good beats in them. There was Nothing But Thieves in it. Monster Truck again, Righteous Smoke, good song. Argos Round and Round was okay. Then there was Swimmers. I really liked Figuring It Out. It was a good song. Like, NHL 17 was the first NHL soundtrack where I noticed that NHL soundtracks have gone to shit. NHL 18 came out. I found it actually pretty good. Out of all the current gen NHL soundtracks, NHL 18 is still my favorite NHL soundtracks. A lot of the songs were actually good, and the bad songs were mediocre. Like, when I talk about the bad songs in NHL 18, I don't call them bad. They're mediocre. Like, the songs I like the least are Haven't You Heard by the North Panics, Don Diablo, So What We Started, Mute Math's Hit Parade. Those are my 3 least favorite songs from NHL 18 soundtrack. They weren't bad, they were mediocre. And this is what NHL 21 is. The whole soundtrack is just mediocre. NHL 19 came out, of course, 2 years ago. I listened to it. I thought at first that the soundtrack was worse than NHL 16, which when I look back on, actually isn't. Like the soundtrack grew on me like for the first week or so. Like there were a lot of songs in NHL 19 I actually liked and actually listened to on my free time. Greta Van Fleet's When the Curtain Falls, Panic at the Disco's High Hose, and especially the Struts' Bulletproof Baby. Like, it's like I said, NHL 21 soundtrack, it's not bad. It's just unbelievably mediocre because it has the least amount of good songs of any NHL soundtracks. Least amount of good songs, but it also has the least amount of, or about least amount of bad songs. It's in the lower tiers. Like, of course, the older NHL soundtracks were pretty much didn't have any bad songs. They were only like in some cases there were like 1 or 2. NHL 21 also pretty much just has 2 or 3 bad songs. The rest is just unbelievably mediocre. When I'm gonna release my all NHL songs ranked NHL 21 edition, I can already give you some spoilers that pretty much almost the entire NHL 21 soundtrack will be in the top 300, and only a few occasions it will go to the top 200, and there's only one song that made it to the top 100. EA, how the hell did you mess this up? I don't know if you're aware or not, but like I said, NHL 19 and 20 soundtracks were even better than it because it had actually much better songs than this year. But they also had much more bad songs than this year. But this soundtrack won't win me over because it doesn't have much enough of good stuff. It's just mediocre. So you probably wonder why people mute the menu soundtracks for these past few years, because they've been unbelievably mixed. Like I said, they're pretty much half bad, half good. So people want to ignore the bad songs. So that's why, they mute it. And when Clappy asked earlier this year what's the number one thing you want to see in NHL 21, and most of it was, improvements to franchise mode and be a pro, and they actually listened to it. So why didn't they listen to the NHL soundtrack wishlist? There were a ton of NHL soundtrack wishlists this year, like almost a dozen, I guess. And most of them actually shared the same songs as other soundtracks. Like, I've seen Bring Me the Horizon, Sleepwalking, 3 Days Grace is the Mountain, Bullet for My Valentine's, Letting You Go in a lot of NHL 21 soundtrack wish lists. If they are so requested, why aren't you adding those? When if you didn't know, but okay, because the official soundtrack is now revealed, the leaked soundtrack is officially a fake leak. And when that got leaked back in late August, people actually called it good. Even I agreed. It could have been the best NHL soundtrack of this generation. Not the best soundtrack of all time. It's the leaked soundtrack, which is fake. The fake leaked soundtrack had Holiday, Popular Monster, Where I Belong, and Chelsea Dagger, Ludens as well. Like, it had 4 songs from my wish list, which would have been great. And people actually called it good. Like it was actually good. And yeah, of course, you shouldn't get high hopes on these soundtracks. I didn't have a high hopes for NHL 21 soundtrack because seeing his track record on the soundtracks, I expect bad. Of course, this time I didn't get bad. I got mediocrity. I'm not sure if it's worse than bad because there were only 5 songs I actually liked. While initially, when NHL 20s and 19 soundtrack were released, I liked half of them, and this is initially, like when they were first revealed. On the first day I listened to the entire soundtracks, I actually thought the half of NHL 19 and 20 songs were actually pretty good. This time around, only 5 songs. Okay, so you've been watching me rambling about NHL 21 soundtrack so far, so. And you probably wonder, what the hell does NHL 21 soundtracks offer? Well, let me show you. Let me show you what the NHL 21 soundtrack look like. And one more thing. If you want to know my ranking of all the current gen NHL soundtracks, the worst one, it's still NHL 16. It's awful. It has Scrux, You and Me, and those songs. We don't mention of them. NHL 21 soundtrack is my second least favorite not because it has a lot of bad songs, but because it doesn't have enough good songs, like I mentioned already. My third least favorite NHL soundtrack is NHL 17. The soundtrack that's in the middle, that goes to NHL 19. My third favorite is NHL 20. My second favorite is NHL 15, and my favorite, like I said, is still NHL 18. So yeah, see ya, and we will make NHL soundtracks great again. Let's hope 22 will be better. Probably not, because EA. They don't know how to make soundtracks anymore.
And we will make NHL soundtracks great again!